There was a time when every dessert carried a story, when handwritten recipe cards held the secrets of family gatherings, church picnics, and Sunday dinners that brought warmth to every home. The 1950s kitchen was not about perfection. It was about love, pride, and the comfort found in a simple slice shared at the table. In this nostalgic journey, we will rediscover 13 forgotten vintage desserts that once filled American homes with the scent of sugar, spice, and joy. Each one tells a story of creativity born from simplicity, recipes shaped by resourceful hands that turned pantry staples into symbols of care. From glossy Jell-O salads to tender nut breads and creamy custards, these desserts reflected a time when home baking was an act of devotion. Many of these recipes have quietly faded from memory, replaced by shortcuts and store-bought sweets. Yet, they remain treasures of a slower, more heartfelt era. So stay with me as we turn the pages of America's lost cookbooks and bring back the desserts that once defined comfort, celebration, and home. By the end of this journey, you may find one that deserves a place in your kitchen once again. In the mid-century kitchen, there was one dessert that shimmered with elegance and mystery, the rum raisin ring. It was not simply a dish. It was a symbol of pride, a centerpiece that turned an ordinary evening into something unforgettable. Housewives prepared it for bridge clubs, Sunday suppers, and church socials, when presentation mattered as much as taste. The ring mold, smooth, glossy, and proudly placed at the center of the table, embodied everything 1950s home cooking stood for: grace, patience, and care. The process began the night before, when golden and dark raisins were left to rest in a bowl of rum or a fragrant extract substitute. They absorbed the liquid slowly, softening and growing plump, ready to deliver a burst of warmth in every bite. The next day, whipped cream, sugar, and gelatin were blended with a touch of vanilla until the mixture turned silky and pale. When the raisins were folded in, the cream shimmered with tiny amber jewels that seemed to glow under the kitchen light. It was poured carefully into a chilled ring mold and left to set, a quiet act of anticipation that filled the refrigerator with promise. Hours later, it emerged firm and luminous, the surface reflecting the soft light of evening. Families gathered to admire it before serving, savoring not only the flavor but the ritual itself, the unveiling of a dessert made with time and love. Today, few remember the rum raisin ring, yet it stands as a reminder of when desserts were more than food. They were gestures of pride, tokens of hospitality, and reflections of a time when patience and beauty were baked into every celebration. In the mid-century kitchen, there was one dessert that shimmered with elegance and mystery, the rum raisin ring. It was not simply a dish. It was a symbol of pride, a centerpiece that turned an ordinary evening into something unforgettable. Housewives prepared it for bridge clubs, Sunday suppers, and church socials, when presentation mattered as much as taste. The ring mold, smooth, glossy, and proudly placed at the center of the table, embodied everything 1950s home cooking stood for: grace, patience, and care. The process began the night before, when golden and dark raisins were left to rest in a bowl of rum or a fragrant extract substitute. They absorbed the liquid slowly, softening and growing plump, ready to deliver a burst of warmth in every bite. The next day, whipped cream, sugar, and gelatin were blended with a touch of vanilla until the mixture turned silky and pale. When the raisins were folded in, the cream shimmered with tiny amber jewels that seemed to glow under the kitchen light. It was poured carefully into a chilled ring mold and left to set, a quiet act of anticipation that filled the refrigerator with promise. Hours later, it emerged firm and luminous, the surface reflecting the soft light of evening. Families gathered to admire it before serving, savoring not only the flavor but the ritual itself, the unveiling of a dessert made with time and love. Today, few remember the rum raisin ring, yet it stands as a reminder of when desserts were more than food. They were gestures of pride, tokens of hospitality, and reflections of a time when patience and beauty were baked into every celebration. In the mid-century kitchen, there was one dessert that shimmered with elegance and mystery, the rum raisin ring. It was not simply a dish. It was a symbol of pride, a centerpiece that turned an ordinary evening into something unforgettable. Housewives prepared it for bridge clubs, Sunday suppers, and church socials, when presentation mattered as much as taste. The ring mold, smooth, glossy, and proudly placed at the center of the table, embodied everything 1950s home cooking stood for: grace, patience, and care. The process began the night before, when golden and dark raisins were left to rest in a bowl of rum or a fragrant extract substitute. They absorbed the liquid slowly, softening and growing plump, ready to deliver a burst of warmth in every bite. The next day, whipped cream, sugar, and gelatin were blended with a touch of vanilla until the mixture turned silky and pale. When the raisins were folded in, the cream shimmered with tiny amber jewels that seemed to glow under the kitchen light. It was poured carefully into a chilled ring mold and left to set, a quiet act of anticipation that filled the refrigerator with promise. Hours later, it emerged firm and luminous, the surface reflecting the soft light of evening. Families gathered to admire it before serving, savoring not only the flavor but the ritual itself, the unveiling of a dessert made with time and love. Today, few remember the rum raisin ring, yet it stands as a reminder of when desserts were more than food. They were gestures of pride, tokens of hospitality, and reflections of a time when patience and beauty were baked into every celebration. In the quiet kitchens of the 1940s and 1950s, before puddings came from packets, there was a dessert that shimmered with patience and comfort: the coconut tapioca cup. It was the kind of treat that took time, demanding attention and gentle stirring, yet rewarding every minute with warmth and satisfaction. For many families, it was more than a dessert. It was a memory in the making. The ritual began with small, pearly tapioca pearls soaked overnight until soft and swollen, waiting like tiny gems in a bowl of milk. In the morning, they were simmered slowly with sugar, egg yolks, and a pinch of salt. As the mixture thickened, the scent of vanilla drifted through the kitchen, carrying the quiet rhythm of spoons scraping enamel pots. Then came the star ingredient, shredded coconut, folded in to add sweetness, texture, and that unmistakable island aroma that felt like sunshine on a cloudy day. Once poured into delicate cups, the tapioca was topped with a swirl of whipped cream or a sprinkle of toasted coconut flakes. Served chilled or slightly warm, every spoonful was tender and soothing, a balance of creamy, chewy, and sweet that spoke of simpler times. For children, it was comfort in a cup. For mothers, it was pride, proof that care could be tasted. And for everyone at the table, it was a reminder that joy often came from the smallest things. The coconut tapioca cup may have faded from modern menus, but its story lingers, a gentle whisper from a time when desserts were not just made to please, but to heal, comfort, and bring a family closer together. Long before store-bought dips filled refrigerator aisles, there was a homemade classic that warmed every gathering: the hot cheese dip. It was the soul of mid-century entertaining, a bubbling dish that brought people closer around card tables, record players, and living room laughter. No party felt complete without it. The ritual began with a small saucepan and a handful of simple ingredients: shredded cheese, milk, butter, and a touch of dry mustard. Some homemakers stirred in Worcestershire sauce for depth, while others added minced pimentos or diced green peppers for a cheerful splash of color. The mixture was stirred patiently over low heat until smooth, thick, and irresistibly glossy. As it melted, the aroma filled the room, a rich, creamy scent that announced warmth was on the way. Served in a ceramic dish or kept warm over a tiny candlelit stand, the hot cheese dip became the heart of the table. Guests would gather around with crackers, crisp celery sticks, or cubes of toasted bread, dipping and laughing, sharing stories late into the night. It was more than food, it was connection, a dish designed to be shared and savored together. For homemakers of the 1950s, it represented hospitality at its best, simple ingredients transformed through care and timing. Every batch carried a touch of pride, proof that comfort could be created from little more than cheese, milk, and heart. Today, few remember how those evenings felt: the glow of the lamp, the hum of conversation, and the quiet joy of something homemade. The hot cheese dip may have faded from modern tables, but it remains a warm echo of an era when gatherings were smaller, laughter was louder, and food was always shared by hand. There was a time when no holiday table was complete without a shimmering centerpiece: the ambrosia jello salad. It was not simply dessert, it was decoration. A dazzling reflection of the 1950s spirit, where color, creativity, and cheer ruled every gathering. Housewives proudly presented it at church suppers and Thanksgiving feasts, its jeweled surface glowing under soft dining room light. The recipe was a playful marriage of old and new, an evolution of the classic Southern ambrosia, reborn through the magic of gelatin. Bright orange or lime jello formed the base, mixed with pineapple chunks, mandarin oranges, shredded coconut, and tiny marshmallows that floated like clouds. When chilled, it became a masterpiece, a wobbly, glistening sculpture that looked almost too pretty to eat. Some homemakers added whipped cream for a dreamy texture, while others layered it in molds with cherries and pecans to impress their guests. When the knife sliced through, it revealed sparkling layers that seemed to capture the optimism of post-war America: colorful, sweet, and endlessly inventive. Served alongside baked ham or roast turkey, ambrosia jello salad walked the fine line between salad and dessert. Children loved its sweetness, adults admired its artistry. It represented celebration in its purest form, a reminder that joy could be molded, chilled, and shared. Today, it rests quietly in vintage cookbooks, a relic of a time when gelatin reigned supreme. But to those who remember, it still brings back the sound of laughter, the clinking of glass dishes, and the tender memory of families gathered around tables glowing with hope and color. The ambrosia jello salad was more than a recipe. It was happiness suspended in time. In the golden kitchens of the 1950s, there was one dish that blurred the line between sweet and savory, bold and comforting: the pineapple cheese loaf. It stood proudly at luncheons, tea tables, and holiday buffets, its golden crust glistening under the warm light. This was not the humble bread of everyday life. It was a statement, a creation meant to surprise, delight, and start conversation. The magic began with cream cheese, softened until smooth and creamy, then whipped with eggs, sugar, and crushed pineapple drained of its syrupy sweetness. A hint of lemon juice added brightness, while a touch of salt balanced every flavor. The mixture was poured into a loaf pan lined with wax paper, baked slowly until firm, and cooled to reveal a glossy, velvety texture that sliced cleanly like a dream. Some homemakers served it chilled with crackers and fruit, while others paired it with ham or chicken salad for a touch of tropical flair. Its delicate sweetness and creamy tang created a harmony that felt adventurous yet familiar, a daring reflection of the post-war palate exploring new horizons. For families, the pineapple cheese loaf was a taste of elegance. It represented hospitality at its finest, something special for guests, made from ingredients found in every kitchen. Today, it lives quietly in the pages of old community cookbooks, rarely remembered yet deeply symbolic of an era that celebrated creativity without waste. The pineapple cheese loaf reminds us that even the simplest ingredients could be transformed into something extraordinary, when time, care, and imagination work together inside the heart of a home. In the heart of the American holiday season, when snow brushed against frosted windows and ovens glowed with promise, the holiday nut bread took center stage. It was more than a baked good, it was a tradition, a symbol of giving, sharing, and the unspoken comfort that filled every winter kitchen. The recipe was simple yet elegant. Flour, sugar, eggs, and milk formed the humble foundation, while chopped walnuts or pecans added richness and texture. Some homemakers stirred in raisins or dates for sweetness, while others flavored their loaves with orange zest, cinnamon, or nutmeg, aromas that drifted through the home like warmth itself. As the batter baked, it filled the air with a fragrance that signaled the arrival of celebration. Families gathered near the oven, children waiting for the moment when the loaf would emerge, golden brown, crackled on top, and still steaming with nostalgia. Once cooled, it was brushed lightly with butter or wrapped in wax paper, ready to be shared with neighbors, church friends, or family visiting from afar. Every slice told a story, of hands that worked carefully, of laughter around crowded tables, and of gratitude expressed not through words but through food. The holiday nut bread was never just about taste. It carried emotion, the rhythm of a whisk, the sound of pouring batter, the quiet satisfaction of creating something to give. Though it rarely appears on modern holiday menus, it remains a timeless reminder that generosity once baked in ovens, cooled on windowsills, and traveled from home to home wrapped in love and simplicity. It was not fancy, but it was pure. And that purity is what made it unforgettable. In the cozy kitchens of the 1950s, where every scent told a story, one aroma stood above the rest, the deep, buttery sweetness of butterscotch muffin squares. They were humble yet proud, the kind of dessert that felt like a reward at the end of a long day. Housewives baked them for bake sales, potlucks, and family picnics, wrapping each golden square in wax paper as if sealing in a secret. The recipe was simple but enchanting. Melted butter and brown sugar formed the heart of the batter, creating that unmistakable caramel warmth. Eggs, flour, baking powder, and a pinch of salt gave it structure, while a touch of vanilla completed its charm. Some cooks folded in chopped nuts or bits of toffee, adding a delicate crunch that made every bite feel like discovery. As the squares baked, the kitchen filled with a sweet, comforting aroma, one that wrapped itself around the heart like a memory. When pulled from the oven, their tops gleamed, slightly crisp at the edges but soft and tender inside. Served warm, they melted in the mouth, a perfect balance of rich butterscotch and buttery crumb. Children loved them with milk, adults enjoyed them with coffee. For many families, they represented togetherness, proof that even the simplest ingredients could create joy. Though forgotten by modern cookbooks, butterscotch muffin squares remind us of an era when desserts were honest, straightforward, and made from the heart. They were not about perfection, they were about care, the kind of care that filled a kitchen with warmth, laughter, and the scent of home. And in every golden square, that feeling still lives, the quiet magic of America's sweeter days. In the cheerful kitchens of the 1950s, when convenience met creativity, the tuna puff became a small miracle of mid-century cooking. Before the word casserole ruled dinner tables, this light, golden dish stood as a symbol of innovation. Housewives proudly crafted it not from extravagance, but from resourcefulness, transforming a humble can of tuna into something airy, comforting, and elegant. The process began with simple ingredients found in nearly every pantry: flaked tuna packed in oil, finely chopped celery for crunch, minced onion for aroma, and a dash of salt and pepper for depth. These were gently folded into a creamy base made from a white sauce or condensed cream of mushroom soup, the era's favorite shortcut to richness. But the real magic appeared when beaten egg whites were added. They lifted the mixture into a souffle-like texture that puffed dramatically in the oven, turning a budget-friendly meal into a showpiece. As it baked, the aroma filled the home, a scent both nostalgic and proud. The tuna puff was often served with crisp lettuce, buttered rolls, or even canned peach halves, showcasing that mid-century flair for presentation. Each forkful was delicate yet satisfying, offering a balance between everyday practicality and quiet luxury. This forgotten gem reflects a time when American homemakers found joy in experimentation. In post-war kitchens, creativity was survival, and pride came from making something wonderful out of very little. The tuna puff was not just dinner, it was a statement of optimism, served hot from the oven. Today, when we look back at this golden, cloud-like dish, it reminds us how the simplest ingredients once told the story of ingenuity, family warmth, and the delicious art of making do. In the glow of mid-century holiday tables, one dish always stood out for its jewel-like beauty and festive flavor: the cranberry nut salad. It was not just a salad, it was an edible celebration, a reflection of the season's warmth and family togetherness. Every bite carried the taste of Christmas gatherings, laughter, and the comforting hum of home kitchens decorated with tinsel and garlands. This vintage delight began with freshly ground cranberries, their ruby-red color bright and bold, symbolizing both tartness and joy. Sweet crushed pineapple and orange segments were folded in, creating a vibrant blend of flavors that felt like sunshine in winter. Then came the texture: chopped walnuts or pecans for crunch, balancing the fruit's sweetness with earthy depth. The mixture was suspended in raspberry or cherry gelatin, a hallmark of 1950s dining that turned ordinary ingredients into shimmering art. Once chilled, the salad set into a glistening mold, often served on crisp lettuce leaves or cut into squares. Its tangy sweet profile perfectly complemented roast turkey or ham, making it a holiday essential. Families took pride in how perfectly it jiggled on the table, a small but cherished detail of presentation. For many, this dish was more than flavor, it was memory. Grandmothers passed down handwritten recipes, often with slight variations: a little more nut here, a touch of orange zest there. The cranberry nut salad represented celebration through simplicity, a triumph of color and creativity in an era defined by optimism. Today, as forgotten as it might seem, this bright, nostalgic salad still tells the story of how American families once found beauty in tradition, transforming modest ingredients into moments of joy that glittered like the holiday lights themselves. In the kitchens of the 1950s, color, texture, and flavor were all part of the same story, and the orange cheese salad was a shining example of this philosophy. Bright, glossy, and visually captivating, it commanded attention on any dinner table. Whether served at holiday feasts, church socials, or casual Sunday lunches, it reflected the creativity and pride of homemakers who sought to elevate ordinary ingredients into dishes that were both elegant and memorable. The foundation of the salad was softened cream cheese, whipped until light and smooth, then sweetened with just the right amount of sugar. This creamy base provided the perfect counterpoint to the vibrant citrus segments, usually canned oranges, whose natural juices brought a gentle tang that balanced the richness of the cheese. Some cooks added chopped nuts, walnuts or pecans, for subtle crunch, while others included shredded coconut to lend warmth and depth. These textures and flavors combined to create a dish that was simultaneously surprising, comforting, and visually striking. Once the mixture was assembled, it was chilled until firm, often molded into decorative dishes, rings, or even layered forms. When placed on the table, the salad's glossy surface, jewel-like orange slices, and creamy interior made it almost ceremonial. Families admired its presentation before tasting, savoring the harmony of textures and the careful balance of flavors crafted with patience and love. Though largely forgotten today, replaced by packaged desserts and convenience foods, the orange cheese salad remains a testament to mid-century ingenuity. It tells a story of domestic artistry, of simple ingredients transformed into something celebratory, refined, and deeply satisfying, a dish that carried both flavor and memory, and whose legacy continues to whisper of kitchens filled with care, warmth, and pride. In the kitchens of mid-century America, desserts were as much about tradition as they were about flavor, and the date nut mold was a shining example. Often reserved for holiday tables or special family gatherings, it was a dessert that combined texture, sweetness, and elegance in a way few could resist. Its preparation was a ritual, a deliberate act that reflected care, patience, and pride in the home. The foundation began with dates, chopped finely to release their natural sweetness, and combined with chopped nuts, usually walnuts or pecans, for crunch and depth. These ingredients were folded into a mixture of whipped gelatin and sugar, often enhanced with a touch of vanilla or orange zest. The gelatin allowed the mold to take shape, holding the fruit and nuts suspended within a translucent, jewel-like matrix. Some homemakers added a layer of whipped cream to soften the edges and introduce a silky contrast, creating a dessert both visually stunning and rich in flavor. Once chilled to perfection, the date nut mold was inverted onto a serving platter, revealing its glistening surface and intricate interior. Each slice showcased the delicate balance of textures, the chewiness of dates, the crispness of nuts, and the smooth, tender gelatin. It was a dessert that demanded attention, inviting admiration before tasting, and evoking the pride of generations who value presentation as much as flavor. Though it has largely disappeared from modern cookbooks, the date nut mold remains a testament to mid-century ingenuity. It reflects an era when desserts were crafted with care, shared with intention, and remembered long after the last slice was eaten. Every bite tells a story of warmth, tradition, and the artistry of homemakers who transformed simple ingredients into something extraordinary, a jewel of memory on every holiday table. And just like that, we have traveled through 13 forgotten vintage desserts that once graced American tables. From the delicate rum raisin ring to the jewel-like date nut mold, each recipe tells a story of patience, creativity, and love, a reminder of a time when desserts were made to delight both the eyes and the heart. Now I want to hear from you. How old are you, and from which part of the world are you watching this video? Have you tried any of these recipes before, or is there one that has caught your attention today? Which dessert would you love to make first, and which one do you think could become your personal favorite? Your answers bring this nostalgia to life and connect us across time and space, celebrating the stories and flavors of America's culinary past. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing to America's Lost Recipes. By doing so, you will help preserve these forgotten treasures and discover even more recipes that tell the history of American kitchens, one dish at a time. Which vintage dessert should we explore next? Let us know in the comments below, and we will continue unearthing these hidden gems together. Because history is not just in books, it is on our tables, waiting to be tasted again. And just like that, we have traveled through 13 forgotten vintage desserts that once graced American tables. From the delicate rum raisin ring to the jewel-like date nut mold, each recipe tells a story of patience, creativity, and love, a reminder of a time when desserts were made to delight both the eyes and the heart. Now I want to hear from you. How old are you, and from which part of the world are you watching this video? Have you tried any of these recipes before, or is there one that has caught your attention today? Which dessert would you love to make first, and which one do you think could become your personal favorite? Your answers bring this nostalgia to life and connect us across time and space, celebrating the stories and flavors of America's culinary past. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing to America's Lost Recipes. By doing so, you will help preserve these forgotten treasures and discover even more recipes that tell the history of American kitchens, one dish at a time. Which vintage dessert,